It was born out of a very personal necessity, I would say, in a way, because I was on one side living my life as a therapist, working with energy healing, sound healing, with just a wide, broad spectrum of people. But at the same time, I was having my own journey with my own sexuality, dealing with the queer world, the gay world, and noticing how much of what I was being able to meet in the social network wasn't aligned with what I needed in my heart, in my soul, to really meet my emotional needs. And I was feeling like dragged into a way of experiencing sexuality that wasn't really mine.
Welcome to the Queer Quest podcast, your beacon of light and sprinkle of glitter in the queer community. I'm your host, Cristiano Green, CEO and founder of Queer Quest and a transformation coach for queer individuals. And together, we're embarking on a journey of transformation. Each week, we bring you a new training topic or connect you with visionary queer leaders in healing and coaching, diving deep into conversations that inspire growth, celebrate diversity, and empower you to live authentically. So wherever you are, settle in and let's get ready to unlock the vibrant potential within. This is where your quest begins. Hello, all you fabulous souls, and welcome to another episode of the Queer Quest podcast. I'm your host, Cristiano Green, the CEO and founder of Queer Quest and a transformation coach for the queer community. Now, I'm super excited today because we have a very special guest on the podcast this week. We have Gaby, who is a holistic therapist. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Gaby.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, likewise. And I know you do mostly all of your work with people in the queer community. So do you want to tell everyone out there, as a holistic therapist, what is it that you do for the beautiful queer community?
Yeah, so after like 8 years and a half of working with a more wide audience and people, a group of people, I decided to start working with queer men around conscious sexuality, intimacy, emotional awareness, and consciousness, um, from the experience of the body and the energetics of our body to basically understand how we can make choices that are really aligned to what we need and that allow us to create the kind of intimacy and pleasure and self-love that we really want in our lives. So my work is based basically now from the experience of the voice, using the voice as a way to connect with your subconscious, to create awareness of how the energy moves in your body with the vibration of the sound, and to use that to create changes in your consciousness around the different areas in your life that you would like to work. But yeah, sexuality is a main focus on the work that I'm doing right now. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. And so then you said that sexuality is the main kind of focus. What made sexuality become the main focus? Was it something that happened in your own life, or was it just stuff that you were seeing out there in the world for queer men?
Yeah, it was born out of a very personal necessity, I would say, in a way, because I was on one side living my life as a therapist, working with energy healing, sound healing, with just a wide, broad spectrum of people. But at the same time, I was having my own journey with my own sexuality, dealing with the queer world, the gay world, and noticing how much of what I was being able to meet in the social network wasn't aligned with what I needed in my heart, in my soul, to really meet my emotional needs. And I was feeling like dragged into a way of experiencing sexuality that wasn't really mine. So I was exploring my sexuality also through art, modeling, photography, nude artwork. And at the same time, I had like this separate personality and presentation of myself as a therapist.
Yeah.
And there was a moment where I really needed to integrate both, and I decided that I could use all of my experience as a therapist and all of my own personal journey in my sexuality to start creating spaces for other queer men that would feel maybe similar to me, with the need of finding different and more intimate, connected ways to experience sexuality.
I love that. And I think that's great when everything kind of just aligns and all of the skills that we've learned and all of the experiences that we've had can come together to create something that just feels really what you were meant to do, I guess.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah, absolutely. I think that at the end, the journey of our own lives and the experiences that we gain are the most powerful school that we can get from life.
definitely, definitely. And so I know you talked about, you exploring your sexuality or coming to terms with your sexuality as a queer man. I would love to
Mhm.
maybe, for the audience to understand that as well. Like, can do you tell us a little bit about that journey for you? How was it growing up for you? Did you know
Mhm.
it from a young age or like, share with us a bit about that as well.
Yeah. So, well, I'm from Peru. I was born and grew up here most of my life until I was 20 actually. So
I love Peru as well.
Peru is very, sorry, what?
I said I love my time in Peru. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, so it is a very conservative country,
Yes.
like most of Latin American countries around sexuality and um, male identities and manhood, you know?
Yes. Yes.
So it wasn't quite easy. I can say that I knew from a very young age, but it wasn't easy to come in good terms with that at the beginning. Hopefully, I do have a very accepting family, and religion wasn't a very traumatic experience or context for me. I was very free to come in and out of the religious practices in my family and find my own way through it. So it wasn't about religion in my case. It was
Yes.
more about society, school, the sports team, the club, So having to deal with a lot of expectations of how I should be presenting as a male body
Yes.
person, because I'm non-binary. I identify as two spirits.
Yes. Choose.
I go by he because it's just I don't feel uncomfortable with a male identity, but in my core, I'm the spirit,
Choose.
So it it was difficult to find my place in between my sexual orientation and my journey with gender. And but at the same time I have a lot of fire in me, and I have like this very strong presence that goes for what I want. So at some point I decided to I needed to break with the social contexts that were trapping me in those identities,
Mm,
and I started exploring with new people, with new social networks, and eventually, well, the art and being a contemporary dancer, being around people that was very connected with their body and with the freedom, more queer people. You can find usually more queer people in the art. So that was very nurturing for my experience. And eventually I moved to Buenos Aires at the age of 20, where like my queerness kind of exploded.
yeah.
And also there I shifted from being a contemporary dancer to start my journey as a healer and therapist in holistic therapies. So yeah, I would say that I've had it easy for, if you compare it to a lot of people that grew up in very violent situations around their queerness.
Yes.
But at the same time, I don't feel that I've had all the freedom to fully express all of my queerness here in Peru, you
Gotcha.
know?
Gotcha. And is that still the way it feels for you today in this moment, or is that like evolved and gotten better and you feel like as time goes by, you're stepping more into your own queerness?
Yeah, no, I mean, I do feel that I live honestly and authentically to my queerness. I can see that, like, I know, like, for example, when I was living in Buenos Aires, and the social context was bringing to me like different influences and different stimuli, from the aesthetic and the queerness around me. Like, my expression was inspired to maybe share different aspects of myself in different ways.
Yes.
I do feel that I I'm good here, but at the same time, I don't have the context that invites me to fully engage all of my queerness with my context. Like, I am authentic in my queerness, but I don't have the relationships to fully engage that in the social context.
I think I get what you're saying. So where you are right now, you don't necessarily have a wider community of other queer people that allows you to
Yeah.
step different parts of yourself, because I get it. When you're around queer people, you can be a certain way and it feels comfortable just to allow yourself to be. But say if you're with
Mhm.
people in your area that maybe are just from a different mindset, a different lifestyle, they won't get your queerness and it'll
Mhm.
just like, oh, who's that weird guy over there or the weird person, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I am clearly the queer guy in the village. I moved into the countryside. I live in a valley in a small village. So I am clearly the queer guy around. But yeah, like, it's with different people, different parts of ourselves come to
Totally.
expression,
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see that missing in my life.
I see. And so what's it like if you're clearly the queer guy in the village? What's it like
Mhm.
in the area of maybe trying to, explore more of your sexuality? Do they have,
Mhm.
in other areas they'd have what people would call a down low guy or whatever. Like, is there people in
Mhm.
the area who are, maybe wanting to explore their sexuality, but again, they're restricted because of how they feel within their networks.
Yeah, you can find a little bit of everything here because this area also is big point of meeting for people from different countries or from different parts of Peru.
Mm.
So there are a few other guys that I would identify more like my experience to theirs. You have the more local network of the society here that is basically people with blank profiles on Grindr, or that have an open profile, but you can see that their experience of their queerness is very restricted
Mm.
to the conservative life around here. And also, it's a huge touristic area. So I get a lot of tourists of around the world traveling and, for example, getting the tantric massage with me,
See,
or maybe, I get on a date with someone from Australia or from New Zealand or from, like, I get to meet people from different parts of the world because people is always coming in and out. But for the most local experience, it is hard for me particularly to find people that I can connect in the way that I need to experience, with the freedom that I need to experience my sexuality.
I see. I see. I get it.
You know? Yeah.
And so I know that you've had a long history with plant medicine. And of course, I know that Peru is a big area where they do a lot of plant medicine as well, right? I personally been there myself to a retreat
Mhm.
where I did plant medicine. And I know from looking on your online content and reading some of your stuff, you've had some deep experiences with ayahuasca.
Mhm.
that actually led
Yeah.
you to understanding more of your queer identity. So
Mhm.
I'd love for you to maybe
Yeah.
share a bit about those experiences and how they've affected your queer identity.
Yeah, of course. Well, I started my journey with ayahuasca 12 years ago
Oh,
at the age of 21. Yeah. And I mean, I've always been a very spiritual person, and my connection with ayahuasca wasn't about queerness.
at
You
all.
know,
Yeah,
it was
I get it.
about this personal quest of healing, of understanding more my relationships, transforming my relationship with my parents, getting in a deeper contact with my power, with my gifts, with what I can offer and bring of value to the world. You know, because if we're going to be alive in this world, we better do our best, you know, and bring some value to our lives. So ayahuasca has been a journey mainly around that.
Mm,
But of course, my queerness is deeply attached to that,
of
you
course,
know?
of course.
And also for me, queerness is a spiritual aspect. It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
just a sexual orientation, it's not just a gender identity, it's not just a social construct and a way to engage in social
Yeah.
interactions.
Spiritual way of being, for sure.
Mm-hmm. So at some point, I had two ayahuasca experiences that connected me deeply with a part in me that's the feminine in me in a way that was like so radical, you know, because I've always been in touch with that feminine part of me. I always felt this man woman inside me.
Yeah.
But then there was this time, this ceremony where I started feeling that I had a vagina and I had a uterus, and the energy of the plant medicine was coming through me, through my vagina. And it led me to a level of surrendering to that feminine identity inside of me, that I could see that my true power, my true inner guide was that feminine.
Yeah.
So since then, I've been in the journey of learning how to allow that feminine to be the guide in my life. And you know, it's not that after an ayahuasca ceremony everything is solved and you don't have to do any work to achieve that. You know, no, it shows you something, it connects you to the power of that. And then you have to learn how to sustain that connection and that power throughout your life, you know?
Definitely, and as I read in your article, the ceremony begins when the ceremony ends. I think that's what you're talking about, right? You get shown
Yeah.
something, or you experience some deep healing, but that's not where that's just the very beginning of the journey for you, and you have to allow yourself to explore what that means and what that looks like in your life, but also
Mhm.
explore like what's going to be different now that you know what you know now and you can't unsee what you've seen. You know, what are you going to do about it, right? You have to be the person to actually go back out into your life and make the changes so that you can, like I said, move forward in the direction that feels most authentic to you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because you have on one side the awareness of things, but on the other side, all the emotional and energetic, psychological programming around things.
Yeah,
You know, so those are structures that you have to learn how to transform, how to bend and transmute into different emotional structures. Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. And if these experiences aren't always easy, they can be very, very difficult to go through. And anyone who's ever asked me, who's been curious about ayahuasca, I say, I believe that everybody should do it, but I don't believe that everybody is ready to be able to do it in their life. And you probably can
Yeah.
to understanding what that means, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and plant medicine is not the only way to get to this huge consciousness
No,
transformation.
no,
But it's definitely like what I've seen is that a lot of the different things that we can do in a way approaches us to aspects of what we can experience with ayahuasca. You
definitely.
know, like ayahuasca or other plant medicines are these huge gateway to consciousness and to energy awareness and to self discovery and to emotional transformation. And you can have so many different experiences with your plant medicine journey, that a lot of the different things that you can do with different techniques or practices are like specialized ways to connect you with that dimension that plant medicine connects you.
Oh, yeah. And when you've gone through those experiences, you realize how many different dimensions that there really are going on.
Yeah.
And we only see what we can consciously you kind of understand. So it's
Mhm.
quite interesting that as you go through the journey and maybe you take off some of the layers of trauma and belief systems and other things in life that you are struggling with, it leaves
Mhm.
you available to see a little more clearly the path that you need to take
Mhm.
and the changes that
Yeah.
you probably are able to make that maybe seem so difficult when you were dealing with all the other stuff that was piling on emotionally within you as
Mhm.
well. And so that
Yeah.
journey allows the person to step further into whatever identity is that that's true to them, which is why I can understand why you going to do it allowed you to step further in and see that you were two spirit and connect more to the feminine side and to probably relate and deal with some of the more of your sexuality, because I can imagine if you're growing up in an area which the world is very much like this, very masculine man. If you're a man, you have to be a man and men need to be this way. And so when you're a little bit different and you do have that feminine within you, it can, of course, hinder you and put all these restrictions on if can I be this way or should I do this? What's going to affect my family and my friendships and how I live my life? But then, as you can see from your experience, taking off all that shit, and I can relate to it myself, life's just a hell of a lot easier when you take off all the masks and you just allow yourself to truly just step into who you truly are, which is why it's
Yeah.
amazing that you do this. And I believe that you've got a retreat that you do for queer men as well, right? With ayahuasca. So do you want to share a little bit about what happens there and why you love doing that?
Yeah. Well, this retreat is created by Jonathan Segrag. He's a friend from the US, and this was his dream for many years since he came to Peru for the first time a couple years ago. I don't remember exactly when. Um, so what we're doing is that we're creating this container, because usually if you come to a more traditional approach to plant medicine, what you have is usually the space of the ceremonies, and then you are on your own. So neither Jonathan or I serve the plant medicine. What we're creating is a context for queer men to come take the plant medicine from a safe source that we trust, that I've worked for many years with. And he, as a coach, and me as a therapist, we're going to guide the group into different integration experiences for the journey with the ayahuasca and San Pedro, because it's not only going to be
And
ayahuasca, we're also
yeah,
going to do San Pedro ceremony, which is a cactus for those who don't know.
San Pedro.
Um,
I've done San Pedro
so
as well.
it's yeah. So Jonathan is yoga instructor. He's a breathwork facilitator. I do the somatic work with the voice and energy healing, sound healing. So we're going to create different ways to go into the subconscious through the experience of embodiment to process all the emotions, all the visions, all the different movements that the plant medicine is going to create for the participants.
In a world where every journey is unique, one path shines brightly for the queer community. Introducing QueerQuest, the first of its kind personal development platform designed exclusively for us, by us. At QueerQuest, we understand the multifaceted journey of queer identity. That's why we've created a space where you can explore, learn, and grow with the guidance of queer experts from around the globe. Whether you're seeking to enhance your physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual well-being, QueerQuest is your gateway to transformation. Imagine embarking on quests tailored to your journey of self-discovery, finding community, and unlocking your queer excellence. Queer Quest offers online courses, coaching programs, and soon workshops, seminars, retreats, and festivals, all designed to empower you to live your best life. Ready to start your adventure? Join us at www.queerquest.vip to become part of a movement towards personal and collective greatness. Sign up today to join the waitlist and be the first to know when we launch. QueerQuest, where your journey of self-discovery and transformation begins. Don't just dream of a life filled with pride and purpose, make it your reality with QueerQuest. Visit www.queerquest.vip now. Your quest awaits.
It's going to be an immersion here in the Sacred Valley of the Incas in Cusco, so surrounded by these beautiful and very powerful, energetically powerful mountains. Um, and our purpose for doing this is, on one side, the awareness that, like, of course, as humans, we all share so much in our woundings, in our blessings, in our way of love, in our fears. But at the same time, different demographic groups have different ways to condition their experiences. So we understand that queer men, we have a wounding that it's common to all of us, or at least layers of it is common to all of us.
Relatable, yeah.
Relatable, exactly. And we want to create this safe container for queer men to meet the wounding that is preventing them to show up at their fullest, embracing all their power that is coming also from their queerness, from their sexuality, from their gender identity, perception, expression, because my understanding of gender and sexuality, like, first of all, I would like to bring this understanding, this conception of the feminine and the masculine. So feminine and masculine are words to humanize aspects of the universe,
Yeah.
and like the most famous of it, yin and yang.
Mm.
The primal feminine and the primal masculine as universal principles of how the energy moves to create life or destroy life or, transform reality.
Yeah.
So then biology also comes from these principles of masculine and feminine. But like masculine and feminine are always dancing together, and they're always neither not just one or the other. They're always together in different ways of combining those energies.
Yeah.
So our experiences as humans naturally is going to be different ways of experiencing the masculine and the feminine principles.
Yes, definitely.
So queerness for me is the social expression that allows humanity to experience more of the nuances of the masculine and the feminine principles.
Yeah.
And that brings a new perspective to life that allows societies to have different understandings of life. And that's why queer people in ancient traditions in America, North America, South America, Asia, even Europe, uh, queer people were very important, had very important roles in society as spiritual guides, as sexuality guides in society. You know, they were the shamans in the tribes, the creators, the healers. So, in today's modern society, as queer men, what's our medicine to our society, to our family, to our circles? You know, what can we bring from our most authentic self?
Yeah. I love that. And I love that that's the work that you're going to be doing at the retreat. And so
Yeah.
for someone out there who's listening, who, you shared some kind of, you talked about how, for a lot of queer men, we all kind of have similar experiences and stuff that we've had to deal with. Just so that, some of these men out there who are listening who may be curious, can you explain some of the, I guess, the specifics that you mean by similar experiences, that so that if I'm out there and I want to come to this retreat, what is it that I'm, probably have gone through that would help me would help this retreat would help me with?
Hmm. I think that on one side is all the expectations that we receive around being a man.
Yep.
You know, what is expected of us, which roles we are supposed to fulfill in our family, in our society, how our energies should be engaging with others. And there has been so much repression around our true ways to express our femininity, our masculinity, and our sexual desire, that for me nowadays, what we generally live as a queer community or queer society is the breakout of the repression. So, therefore, quite a compulsive way to own our sexuality as like a prize that we caught instead of a value that we just own. You know, so this is something that I must take, and I'm gonna own it the way that I want, in opposition to all the repression that I've learned exists around my sexuality.
Yeah.
You know, so that, like, we so often feel that we are so different to straight men, but then at the end we are doing a lot of the same things that straight men are doing to women, but we're doing it to each other.
Oh yeah.
You know, we are denying our emotions, we are using someone else's body for our pleasure without really being aware of what we're touching in ourselves and in the others. Um, we are, even if we construct a queer identity, a lot of the times that identity will be um, a rehearsal of what we can become. You know, like an attempt of become something of value instead of fully surrendering to our tender truth. you
Yeah.
know? We don't have a lot of um, queer elders that were able to live an authentic life, to just discover what is really for them, for us, for me, like to be a queer man. And we are trying to construct ways of being that will fit better in the society that we're asking and requiring for acceptance.
Yeah, I
You
hear
know.
you. Yeah, for sure. And yeah, there are so many of us out there who don't necessarily know what, like, have someone to look up to in the queer community to say, hey, look, like, this is how it should be, or me struggling with this is a common thing that I'm going through. Because, as you said, in previous generations, many people had to hide for survival, And
Mhm.
as we evolve and generations go on and, it gets better and better, of course, it's still nowhere where it needs to be. And we've got a long way to go. But I
Mhm.
think what you're trying to get at is that we are the people who are going to be leading the next generation. And so how
Mhm.
do we want to live, and how do we want other people to feel, if they're queer, that it's going to help them choose to live as well?
Yeah, and at the same time, the same way that there's these cis heteronormative ways of existing, we've created our own queer normatives to
Yeah,
exist.
totally.
So we might learn that being a queer man means being a certain way and engage in sexual relationships in a certain way, and all of that. So how much of that is a social construct that we've had to build in order to find belonging and safety and all the wonderful things that we've created
And to
as a
explore
as a
our explore our sexuality. And oftentimes
yeah.
that, when you've been repressed for so long and then you jump out into it, that's what they call the second adolescence. You feel like a kid again,
Yeah.
any store, but now
Yeah.
you're an adult. And sometimes those things can go on for 10, 20, 30, 40 years where you are still acting in those behaviors because it's something that you have feel like is, you like you said, you've created the normatives, right? And so then
Yeah.
other, we get represented in media and society in certain ways. So as a younger queer person, you used to think that's the way that you have to be if you are in this position, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So how much of that we can deconstruct and unlearn to allow different parts of ourselves to express in a more authentic, tender, gentle, and powerful way.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
mm,
And I know from seeing stuff of yours online, you do, you talk about things like semen retention and sexual
mm,
energy healing. So
mhm,
talk to us about, the kinds of people that would come to you and the
mhm,
work that you do in your day-to-day practices. I know, like you said, you talked about tantric massages and things like that. How
mhm.
does that help with, like I said, a queer person who's needing to maybe go on a bit of a journey of like, how do I figure this out for myself instead of following societal norms of queer people?
Mhm. Yeah. So just to be clear about the different spaces, in the ayahuasca retreat, we're not going to be working
That's a separate.
directly with sexuality because sexual interactions are not compatible with the work with ayahuasca.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
just to bring this to the collective awareness, ayahuasca is Kundalini energy. She works with her sexual energy. So it is important to keep that clear and clean and for yourself and the work with the plant. And
Yes. Correct.
then yeah, and then in my workspace, um, so I don't just work with queer men, I work with men in general. Of course, the majority of men working with me are queer, but what's common for all of them is the curiosity slash desire slash need to find more authentic ways to experience their own sexuality. So that can mean, for example, someone that has gone through sexual abuse when they were young, or kids or adolescents. And I am currently working with a few clients that have gone through that. So their experience of sexuality is so conditioned by the trauma that they need to work deeper into those emotions that are still in their bodies, um, to engage in sexual relationships and love relationships that can meet more of their truth, and that they can engage more authentically, instead of being so conditioned by the trauma. Or men that have experienced shame around their development as teenagers and the size of their penis and how they are perceived as enough or not enough men for the others.
Yes.
So the way that they make love and they seek for pleasure is full of fears of not being enough. So we work
Totally.
around all of those emotional and psychological programmings that are conditioning how they experience intimacy. And also, there is people that maybe these men, they don't find like particular problems around sexuality, but they've perceived how sexual energy is a bigger part of their lives other than just sexual activity. And it's deeply connected to their creativity and how they can embody pleasure and joy in life in general and engage with life in a pleasurable way, like putting their bodies into this joyful presence that inspires others. So I've had clients that they don't feel, oh no, I have this problem with my sexuality, da 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 da. Da. And it's like, no, I want to learn more how to acknowledge my own emotions and how to work with my energy and how to move my sexual energy so I can have better, deeper experiences having sex, but also knowing how to use that energy to nurture other parts of my life and nurture my creativity, and that boosts how I create in my work. And so there is so much that you can do with sexual energy.
Mm.
um yeah.
Wow. Sounds like a lot of powerful work that you do for a lot of men out there who obviously need to go on that journey. And like you said, it's important to separate that the ayahuasca retreat is not about necessarily your sexuality, even though there might be
Mhm.
parts of it that get explored through doing some of the healing work.
Yeah.
And the work that you do in your day-to-day one-on-one clients can help
Yeah.
people to use their sexual energy to get many different results in their life as well. So that's super important
Yeah.
to note with out there as well. So appreciate you coming on here today, Gaby, and sharing your wisdom and your truth. So I know that, like you said, you've got that retreat coming up. We talked a little bit
Mhm.
about it, but do you want to share some details about it
Yeah.
here so that like anyone out there who is curious maybe can get in contact with you?
Yeah, of course. So the retreat is almost here. We start June 16th to June 23rd. So it's going to be 8 days in a beautiful, amazing retreat center here in the Sacred Valley.
Sacred Valley.
If
Yeah. Very
Yeah, if someone is interested in joining, they should contact me ASAP. In the link in my bio, in my Instagram bio, there is one of the first links is for the retreat, and you can read all the info. You can also read my story about my journey with ayahuasca and queerness. But yeah, it's basically less than 3 weeks from now. So if you feel that this is your call, get in contact with me now.
yeah.
And yeah, let's get on a discovery call so we can discuss farther and deeper if this is the right opportunity for you. And yeah, I hope that some people join.
Yeah, me too. How many times are people going to be going through a ceremony in the 8 days?
Yeah, exactly.
How
In
many
a queer group.
how many times do you go through the ayahuasca ceremony in your 8-day retreat?
Oh, how many times? It's going to be 2 ayahuasca ceremonies and 1 San Pedro ceremony. And then we are going to have also a cacao ceremony.
Beautiful.
Um, yeah. So we have a day without ceremony in between the ceremonies.
Integration.
So we can integrate, integration, rest. So yeah, 2 ayahuasca ceremonies, 1 San Pedro ceremony.
Wow. Yeah. When I did it over 2 weeks, I did 7 ayahuasca ceremonies. I did a sapo ceremony. I did a San Pedro ceremony, and then a couple of other small things. But yeah, so sounds like mine was very intense. So if you want to go to a nice starting one, that's quite gives you a bit of space in between. This sounds like the right one for you as well.
Yeah, no, it can be a lot. And deep immersions as the one that you had are amazing and super
Oh yeah.
powerful, but they're not for anyone and for everyone. So yeah,
Definitely not for everyone. And yes, it's very deep work that we do, but I will always remember it, and I can't wait to come back anyway in the near future.
amazing,
Mm.
amazing. Well,
Beautiful.
thank you so much for the invitation.
Of course, Gabby. Again, I'm excited to hear how the retreat goes. And yes, like I said, if you want to contact Gabby, we'll have the details of him on Instagram below. I'll link them in the comments below. If you have any other questions or you want to share your story with ayahuasca, feel free to reach out to me on social media. You know where to find me. And I'll be back with another episode soon of the Queer Quest podcast. But until then, always remember that you've got this and I've got you. Bye for now. Are you ready to embark on a transformative journey towards love and happiness? Introducing the 21-day Gay Man's Guide to Love and Happiness. This isn't just a course, it's a pathway to discovering your true self, overcoming challenges, and embracing happiness. Join hundreds of gay men who found joy and freedom. Learn from Cristiano Green, a coach with 20 years experience and a journey like yours. For a limited time, get this life-changing course at 75% off with a 100% risk-free guarantee. There's nothing to lose, but so much to gain. Your new life is just a click away. Enroll in the 21-day Gay Man's Guide to Love and Happiness today. Visit theglobalpridecollective.com and start your journey towards a happier, more fulfilled you.